I'm Nachliel Selavan, founder of Torah Intermedia, and I give tours at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. And here is Rabbi Dr. Raphi Zarum, the Dean of the London School of Jewish Studies, and he gives tours at the British Museum.
Absolutely.
So I thought, Raphi, I was going to ask you about your experience in the British Museum, and how do you find that the British Museum helps and empowers experiential Jewish education?
Well, I've been giving tours there for about 10 years now. And for me, I mean, I'm British, but I think the British Museum is probably the greatest museum in the world. It's got thousands and thousands of artifacts. And in terms of Jewish history, it's fundamental because it allows us to understand our past and our story. So if I want to learn about Pesach, I go to the Egyptian section. If I want to learn about Purim, I go to the Persian section. If I want to learn about Hanukkah, I go to the Greek section. And each one has artifacts that relate to our story and midrashim and events that happen to our actual past. And so I find it quite transformative to actually see those objects and to tell those stories. And in fact, coming up very in November is a new exhibition, which Shana, you're going to miss, as a shame. Ashurbanipal from Assyria, which is so important for understanding the Assyrian invasion, and actually as we see the story of Yonah. But I wanted to ask you as well, because you do tours, and you've been teaching tours, giving tours at the Met in New York for a long time, but as you know, I think British Museum has even more. I know it's your first time. You spent the last few days visiting the museum, seeing the British Museum, seeing the artifacts firsthand. What's been special for you? What special artifacts have inspired you?
The top of the list, I would say, is the Lachish reliefs of Sennacherib, because I've been teaching about that and talking about it for years. And for me personally, it really is the other side of the story of literally my backyard, because I grew up in the old city, and right on top of the wall that King Hezekiah built 2,700 years ago in preparation for the invasion. Part of the invasion, while it didn't succeed in destroying Jerusalem or annexing it, but it destroyed Lachish. And Sennacherib boasts about the destruction of Lachish, and he talks about capturing Hezekiah and that whole story of the talons of gold and silver that he imposed upon him that are written both there in the British Museum. You can see it on the cylinder, and it's also written in the Book of Kings. So it's fascinating to see the other side and to really be in the presence of something that I've really been anticipating seeing for years. And we did a little video about that, which we're going to post. What I find fascinating too is that we have the three major cultures from the first and the beginning of the Second Temple period all within the same area. So you can either go as if geographically from the land of Israel down to Egypt to the south, and you have amazing artifacts from Egypt. And then you can go to the Assyrian Empire, which is more to the northeast, modern day Iraq, and Assyria is such an lesser known kingdom, even though they've had such a tremendous impact on our history, and people don't really understand how much of an impact they've had. They kind of fall between the sidelines when you have Nebuchadnezzar and Babylon, and then Greece and Rome and all of that. And then we have the Greek world and Greek Roman world, all they're in one floor, close to each other. It's just such an amazing thing to see, and so many things you can do with that.
Well, look, I hope in the future that you'll come back to London and you'll do some tours at the British Museum as well to show people what you know about, and also to show how relevant it is to Jewish education. I'll just end on one point, which is for me is that, we're a small people, 14 million today. We've never been big. And yet our history has bumped into the great civilizations. So Abraham started off in Ur Kasdim in Babylon. And we see that in the museum.
Room 56.
Absolutely. And then he goes to Israel, then he bumps into Egypt. So even though we're small, we bumped into the Persians, we bumped into the Greeks, we bumped into the Egyptians and the Babylonians. And as a result, our story is interweaved with them, which is why the museum is such a great place to go. And hope to see you all there sometime in the future.
And come in November until February to the British Museum to see Ashurbanipal. Don't miss it.
Be well. Bye-bye then.
Bye.